My name is Victor Fuhrman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. Are we Starseeds? Do we carry within us the spiritual DNA of our cosmic family? How may we connect with and activate this DNA to reawaken to this truth and find our higher purpose on this world? My guest this week on Destination Unlimited, Eva Marquez, says that when we activate our cosmic DNA, we can discover our Starseed family. Eva Marquez is a spiritual consultant, healer, teacher, and writer with Pleiadian Starseed ancestry. She works with her guides, Lights of the Universe, who are a collective group of light beings from various star nations. She teaches online workshops on Starseed DNA activation and Atlantean soul healing. Her website is evamarquez.org, and she joins me this week to share her path and new book, Activate Your Cosmic DNA. Discover your Starseed family. Please join me in welcoming to Destination Unlimited, Eva Marquez. Good evening, Eva.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you so much for joining us and sharing this cosmic wisdom and light, something that so many of us resonate with and even more are curious about. So please start by telling us about your early path and how it led you to your channeling the language of light.
Well, first of all, let's have one more time that I'm so grateful to be here with you and sharing about my experiences. So hopefully it will open the mind and the heart of many others who have the same or very similar experience. So as all of us, I was an unusual child, being and feeling very different from the others. And my childhood wasn't the most happiest childhood. As all, I would say, as our Starseeds, we come with this soul contract of the suffering and difficulties that we bring with us. So it will help us eventually to find the resources that we will start understanding what is happening to us. So I would feel the energy since I can remember, but I used to be very afraid of it. And so I would try to outrun it or push it away as far as I can, which led into quite rebellious teenager years. But later on, how I found literally what does it all mean and the language of light, it was when my children were born and I had a friend who suggested to read a book, Open to Channel by Sanaya Roman. And so I was at a time when me and my friends were experiencing of finding our guides and seeing what is it that we are really feeling and experiencing. And it didn't really work out for me as it worked out for them. So I felt like, okay, I probably don't have a guide or anybody to connect with. I'm just the weirdest person you can ever imagine who is afraid of everything you can ever imagine. And one day I was washing dishes and suddenly there was this presence, a male presence on my right side that said, can you? Now I feel the energy. I don't see the energy with my eyes. I can feel it and I can hear them telepathically speaking inside of me. And so I stopped everything and I thought, oh my God, this must be my guide. The second word I heard was Pleiades. Now, this is about probably 17, 16 years back. I had no idea what is Pleiades. So I went to the computer and I Googled Pleiades. And the star cluster, the picture of the star cluster appeared on the screen and I burst into cry. There was this instant recognition that there's home. And it makes me emotional just to think about it. That connection, there's something inside of me that changed on that day, that moved inside of me. And I knew that my life will never be the same. A few minutes after that, I started to speak what I call today the language of light. And I thought it's just my guides talking to me, or this is how they probably talk in that Pleiades that I just found out. And I was just bursting with the tears. And it was a beautiful moment. I didn't understand for the few years what the language of light is, or what is it that I can do with it. But that was the beginning of the journey.
That's wonderful. And we'll talk about the fact that I had a similar connection a little bit later in the interview. But please share with our listeners, what is the language of light and where does it come from?
To me, the language of light is the cosmic truth. It is the energy, the language that we can communicate in this universe among each other. Now, I do believe that on the different planets and different constellations, we do speak the different languages or different dialects, same like here on the Earth. But there's one thing that we have in common, which is the language of light. Language of light is the combination of the emotions, color, sacred geometry, numbers, and the symbols. Something that resonates with, let's say, the universal or the cosmic truth. Something that it's the same for, if we can describe it in the time for the gazillions and gazillions years, that's the same thing. For example, the circle. Circle is the symbol of the language of light. Now you can show the circle to any aliens on any planet, they will know it's a circle. Here, it's good to look at the Earth and our connection here. You show the circle to somebody who speaks an English language, they know it's a circle. You show it to somebody who speaks a Czech language, they know it's a circle. They will just call it a different word. The same in the Japanese language. The same goes with the numbers, with the colors, and with the emotions. So those are, and sacred geometry. Those are and sound as well. They are the components of what we call the language that cannot change or means the same thing at any part of this universe and probably beyond as well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. In essence, what you're saying is that if we step aside from ego, this is a universal language.
Yes, it is the soul language. It is the universal language. Yes.
May anyone learn to open to channel the language of light, and how may they achieve this?
Absolutely. And that is where we are today. This is what we are learning, to channel the language of light and understand this. Now, many, first we hear this language of light, or even the one I speak, there's these words that we repeat and we says, oh, if there's a dictionary, we may learn it, right? Like we would learn a foreign language. That is not true. What we need to learn is to connect that essence of it, to start again, to working of transcending our ego into mind and a focus on feelings, because the feelings are connected to the core of this language and the core of our soul. So if we take a simple, let's say the 7 chakras, we know that the 7 chakras are 7 colors of the rainbow. And if I want to train myself in the language of light, I can just do that with the 7 chakra work. I can sit with my first chakra, open the red energy and red color. And I may sit with it. And that is that red color within our chakra. It's the language of light. How does it make me feel? Now we know that the safety and security, right? The first chakra energy. And I may sit there, I may feel insecure, I may worry about my health or about my finances or where I'm supposed to move to. And that would be the language of our ego, who wants to make us always afraid. And language of the soul says, feel safe, find your way, how to define your safety at any place where you are or what you are experiencing or so much on. So the first is that red energy. The second, if you look at the chakra particular, there would be the sound that we can chant and connect with. Another part, what I really like, because I like us to be connected to our senses, or what I train by the Pleiadians is to be connected to the senses. The first chakra holds the extraordinary sense of the smell. Now, the smell we think about the nose and kind of like that face area. No, it's up there. It's connected to our safety and security. The sense of the smell is our first time traveling ability, which we can do with that language of light. So I will sit with it and I says, okay, if I will smell a strawberry, what is it going to remind me of? Now, strawberry, if I take a picture and symbol of the strawberry, it's red. It's the particular picture that everybody around the world, or I would say almost everybody on the earth recognize, and we don't have to call it in the English word strawberry. Suddenly strawberry become a symbol of the language of light. How does the strawberry makes me feel? Maybe there are good memories of it from this lifetime, even from all past lifetime. Or maybe, something traumatic happened to me while I was eating the strawberry. I will recall it and recognize it. And that is the language of light, that language of feeling that reconnect to our senses. Now, our feeling is that essence, is the soul energy. It's like so creative and beautiful. And the senses are our ego mind energy. So we are in the human body, we are in this animal body. It doesn't matter where we came from. In each incarnation, we start from the animal up, from the animal to the divine self. And so we do have to work with the ego, transform the ego. And that's the kind of the work that language of light help us to work with, to find that healing and learn to find the words and explanation for what is it that we are feeling and experiencing, instead of just being angry and disappointed and victimized and feeling bad.
Absolutely. You had mentioned that your initial opening involved clairsentience, feeling, and clairaudience, hearing. But people can use any of their clairsenses, clairvoyance, to see.
Absolutely. So if the language of light speaks to our 7 chakras, can be trained through that, that means that we can use any ability within the body to perceive and communicate in the language of light.
In 1993, I picked up a copy of a book entitled Bringers of the Dawn. It spoke of the Pleiadians being from the Pleiades, the constellation that you have shared known as the Seven Sisters. And upon reading this book, I had an immediate, almost familial sense about these beings and the deep and abiding feeling that their home was my home millennia ago. Tell us about the Pleiades and how you remembered that they were your Starseed family.
Well, the Bringers of the Dawn is the classic. I think many Pleiadian friends that I know, that was the first book that we, I think, pick up. And then, of course, the Barbara Hand Claw right after. But how do I remember them? The same as you said, I remember the home. So my biggest connection is with the Alcyon. And that I believe was my primary home. I remember to look at the sky and seeing it in the rainbow color. And rainbow is very important in the Alcyon. It is the healing of the soul. Now, they always speak about our body is the microcosm of the macrocosm. And it's not much different up there in that retrospectrum to what we are doing here. If I'm going to look at the rainbow, again, it goes with my 7 chakra, it stimulates my whole body energy. Up there, the star beams, extraterrestrials, fly from the other planets or constellation to the Alcyon to heal their soul. Because when your soul is healed, your mind is healthy, your body is healthy, and they can work in the unity. Next thing I remember was the healing temple. So sort of going to this healing temple on these white steps. And once you're taking the step-by-step upward, you are gaining more understanding to yourself. And then when you walk into the temple, you walk through, this short place that looks like to me, but you walk into the garden. So I'm always led to this open garden. And in this garden, there are places like a nature bathing places, like stone-made nature bathing places. And you go and it's like to go into the spa. You sit down in this place and it is filled with either turquoise color water or turquoise color essence that is almost like a liquidy water energy. And it gives the full body healing. Now, this I can compare to something that I channel and I read in some books, to the cellular rejuvenation that was used among the ancient Essenes, and a technique that has been used all the way to the ancient Egyptian time, which I think, we brought from up there down here to be connected to this, let's say, water element, to the element within our body where we can receive the rejuvenation. Naturally, rejuvenation of the body is only achievable when you have a balance between your soul and the mind within the body. So as my next memory, everybody's very friendly up there. One exciting place that I visited is the City of Gods. So they call it Zion. Zion was one of my first words of the language of light. I would be talking, I would sing. They call the earth Era, and then would be this sentence, the Era, Atlantion from Atlantis, Era to Zion, from Atlantis to the earth, to Zion, to the city of the gods in Alcyon. I was very surprised, later on when I started to do a little bit of research and understand what is it that I'm saying or channeling, that Zion is the special word here on the earth that you find the Enoch was buried in I believe there's the Mount Zion, which may be representing the city of the gods that I remember from Alcyon. Now, what does it would mean? In the city of Zion in the Alcyon, it rhymes, right? It is the council of the light that resides. This council is literally a group of the beings from the different constellation, those who would come, let's say, from the path of the mind, which can represent the dark beings as well, and those from the path of the light of the soul. Up there's a union between the soul and mind, or between light and the dark. This earth and whole this universe is a place of the duality, is the place of the soul and the mind. So naturally, there will be the light and there will be dark. And so if there's any trouble, you go to the Council of Light for the advice or for the training, for many things that we can imagine. It's a very beautiful and very lovely place. What I also would like to share from there is no this feeling of the hierarchy. So of course, we do have this high hierarchy, and even up there it is, but it's not like when you walk there, you do feel a respect for everybody around, but you are not afraid what is going to happen. You are not afraid like, oh gosh, here I'm going among these very enlightened people who knows it all. And I'm so afraid what's going to happen. You come there with the soul and with a love in your heart. And you come there with your open mind. And even if you may receive, the advice that may not be exactly what you want, you are able to see it from that higher perspective and know that it's for the best of the best.
It's almost like the foundational message of virtually every faith and religion on earth. Love thy neighbor as thyself, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Yes.
In Activate Your Cosmic DNA, Discover Your Starseed Family, you share about other races and beings, including those from Sirius, Andromeda, Centaurus, Epsilon, Iradni, and Lyra. What are some of the advice that you offer readers to help them remember and connect with their specific Starseed family?
Well, let me first tell you how this book came to life, because that I think is going to help to readers to understand. I obviously do a lot of readings, and once I started, somebody asked me, well, can you help me to develop my psychic abilities? I was like, okay, let me ask my guides, whatever they think about it. And that's where Pleiadian says, well, here comes the DNA activation that's going to help to develop the psychic abilities. And most of all, it will help the people to understand how the abilities work, what they are, and connect them to that extraterrestrial part of themselves. So through the readings I would do for different people, I started to connect with this particular star nation. There are a few more that I work with, but I started to realize that they have a same energy imprint, and these people here, the Starseeds, they have a same personalities, same problems, same calling for their life mission, very similar choices in their occupations. And so I started to put them into these groups, and I started to create these files. And I realized that when I'm sharing these files with the others, they find that similarity activates them. Suddenly they understand themselves. Like, for example, Andromedian Starseed are just amazing in that clear sentience and the feeling the energy. But all of them want to open the third eye, like third eye opening and seeing everything is like the coolest things ever. But it will never work for them because they first really need to master that clairsentient feeling, because they're like dolphins or the whales swimming in the water and feeling everything through their body. And then it's interesting, or I found it fascinating, that almost every Andromedian starseed had some very difficult bodily problem, especially in the back area, like the spinal injury or the back injury. I talked to several people who says, I was not supposed to walk, and there was just this miracle. I started to do healing and the Reiki, and I healed myself. It literally, the injury activated the healing abilities. The same, like, for example, the Pleiadians, we usually are masters of the abuse, of going through a lot of suffering through the abuse, especially in our early childhood and later on into teenager years. Many of us brings it into the marriages, and so we are these emotional strugglers. But that teaches us to really connect within our soul and choose that we don't have to live in the fears, and we can embrace love, that the love is stronger than anything that is out there, and we can bring it to the others, to open the heart of the others.
I think that's the most important message that any of us can share through our experience and in this world today, is that we have to bring that love to others. My guest, Eva Marquez, her new book, Activate Your Cosmic DNA, Discover Your Starseed Family. Eva, please tell our listeners how they can find your book and more about you and your work.
Well, you can find everything about me on my website, evamarquez.org. And there are links to my book, which can be found in the major retail stores, of course, on the Amazon. So if you go to my site, there you're going to see it all.
And we'll be back with more of Eva after these words on the OMTimes radio network.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, Eva Marquez, her book, Activate Your Cosmic DNA, Discover Your Starseed Family. Eva, you offer practices that those who remember and connect with their starseed families may engage in. Just give us an example of one or two of these.
All right. So the one thing I teach is the soul healing. Soul healing is literally a practice that helps us to connect through our, especially 7 chakra work and meridian work, to our soul and our ego mind. It helps us to balance that ego mind energy. So the best practice to connect to ourselves and start understanding ourselves, from the soul healing is just to sit and meditate with our 7 chakras again and see, what are the good things or what are the challenging things. So it means to start understanding to ourselves and then focusing on understanding our abilities. For example, the empathy. Empathy is not a bad thing. Empathy is such a gift, but it's very bothersome at some point because we're sponging everything from the left to the right. So just sitting with that, what from this empathy is bothering me? What are these people's and the emotions that are challenging me, and finding it within myself? And instead of moving away from it or trying to outrun it, you go into that energy and you start exploring it. Why am I feeling it? And what is it that is happening to me? Another part is the connecting with the earth. We all want to connect with our soul families, go up into Pleiades and have that great experience of it and other planets. But we do need to be connected with the earth. There's just so much of energy inside of the earth that we left for ourselves. So with the groups that I'm teaching and working with, we very often actually observe the places of the earth instead of the universe. You will be amazed how much you will find there. So find what you feel drawn to. Let's start with the earth. Find the ancient place. Are you feeling drawn to, let's say, the Machu Picchu in the Peru, or the 3 pyramids in the Giza, or a connection to the Mary Magdalene in the France? And start meditating with those places. Imagine that you go there in your meditation. Open your 7 chakras and start exploring the feeling. What you are feeling, it will connect you home to your soul family.
Beautiful. Will a personal life review bring insight into these connections and events that we may have filed away?
Oh, absolutely. I think the life review is essential on our spiritual journey. We cannot just make a line behind the past, today I make a tick line about whatever happened. I'm just going to start whole new from now. Who we are today, we are because what happened to us. See, I often share with the people that I have been abused, sexually abused on all kinds of the levels. And I can sit with it today and I can look at it and it says, I'm grateful for what happened to me. It will sound really weird, but it shaped me into who I am today. And the only way to understand it is by doing the life review. Would I wish it to anybody else? Absolutely not. But to look at it and see why those things that happened to me. So if I can learn to love unconditionally the person I hated the most, I wish the most horrible things to happen, that's what makes me a better person. That's what makes me to overcome that ego, controlling, hateful, ugly energy into absolutely beautiful, intelligent energy, to look into that, again, what control me, what happened to me, what could shape me into best possible of myself. Now you says, well, is it really worth it? Or how do I gauge it, the back and forth? Well, once you do your life review and you can accept what happened to you, you can forgive the people and to yourself, and you can find that unconditional love for that person. Sort of, imagine that we all are little tiny children who did not plan to do all this, what happened later on. That help us to grow and help us to connect with the others, to help the others. We agree that all these bad things in life will happen to us. So one day when we figure it out, we can stop running. We can sort of stay in the moment and we can reach to the others who are here. And it says, look, if I could have healed, if that shaped me into this really good person that I like today, it can happen to you. we create this way of life out of the most horrible and the suffering into the most amazing and inspiring for the others. And so that can only happen through that review of the life, see where we have been, how did we grow, evolve from it, instead of just, waiting who's going to save us. And I'm sure that we all had those years of the waiting, who's going to save me? Then you realize, well, there's nobody coming. I have to do it myself. I have to grow. I have to evolve. Absolutely. And I can help to do that to the others. Yeah.
In the 1990s, the mid 1990s, I had a wonderful spiritual teacher who would teach a premise. And that premise is that everything that happens is unfolding in divine order. He said we may not see it. He said we may not understand it. He said we may hate it and hate what we're going through. But that if you use spiritual eyes and reflect back, you'll recognize that all of the negative events that transpired built you into the person that you have become, built you into the situation, into the synchronicities that have come into your life and have made you a better person on your own path and have given you the gift of forgiveness. And that touched me in so many ways and resonated with me in so many ways that I carried that forward. And he used to say that hating someone is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die.
That is beautifully said.
Absolutely. Do we carry literal cosmic DNA? And is this physical, spiritual, or a bit of both?
Well, I think that one day we're going to have an absolute proof. Right now, we just have to work in what we are feeling. I am convinced that we have a both. We have a physical and a spiritual cosmic DNA. In my work, in my channeling and little research I have done, I do believe that the primates species have been genetically modified to speed up their evolution with the cosmic DNA. So if we go back into the times when the Anunnaki needed somebody to mine their gold, they look at the primates and they says, oh, perfect match. We just need to make them a little bit more smarter, a little bit faster. And so they used the collective cosmic DNA to upgrade them, and that way they got this jump start. Would they evolve without that into who we are today, into multidimensional species? Absolutely. Would just take maybe more, 1 or 2 or 3 thousands of years, a little bit more. There are 2 differences as I see. So we all have a cosmic DNA and it's physically encoded within our body. There are those of us who are awakened ahead of time, who have this feeling of this Pleiades within us, or Sirius, or Lyra, or anywhere where we came from. We did have a life before the Earth on those planets and constellations, and we came here and we are incarnating into these bodies that have been jump-started by literally our evolved cosmic DNA. And there are those souls who we all come from the same place, in my opinion, from this globe of the light beyond this universe that we may call God or the source or any way we would like to call it. And we come here like these showers of light in the different time frames. So we came a long, long time ago. There are those brave, I think they're actually the most brave souls, who says, oh, forget about this planetary way. Let's go right on the Earth and let's start from the animal up. So we are like devolving and they're evolving and we are meeting in the middle and helping them. But we all have that physical and the spiritual DNA, cosmic DNA, that make us destined to be a multidimensional species. It makes us destined to explore this universe and evolve beyond this universe.
I remember as a child feeling different from other children and even from my own family. I had many experiences that were labeled as imagination, only to later find corroboration and confirmation of these events. Is that something that many starseeds experience?
Yes. the first 7 years of life, you are more connected to your soul energy, deeply to your soul energy. And that is the time when you remember the most. That is when we need to really listen to those little kids and the stories, what they are saying. And so, we grow, we started to learning to speak, and we want to share with everybody what is it we remember. And we are, labeled as crazy or way too imaginative, or we should be quiet and don't talk about those things. But that is a true sharing from the soul. And when we are still closest to our nature. Now, when we turn from the age to 7 to 14, we started growing into that intellectuality. And of course, the ego years will take over. And that's where we are already shaped by the society and schools and the families and so much on to be normal. So the first 7 years are the most, I would say, important years to look to our memories, what we used to do, what we used to say, how did we act, to connect it to our original soul energy.
What are some of the other traits and gifts that each of these star nations bring to bear? You talked a little bit about the Pleiades. What about the other star nations?
So let's say Syrian energy is very focused in their mind, in the sixth chakra. We call them knowledge keepers, because in the series you can find the Akashic records. So those are fabulous to connect to the Akashic records. Also, many ancient teachers, wherever you came from, you would go to the series for the training. So the collective source of the history of this universe and the earth you can find in the series. Orion, even though I don't write about the Orions, I think it's good to mention them. They are connected to the mind and to the mind control, the mind energies. You want to go through the ego mind transformation, you do need to connect with the Orion and understand your darkness. Lyra. Lyrans, they have this like full golden bodily glow. They are like principals at the schools. They are the grandfathers of the DNA genetic modification in the extraterrestrial beings. And of course, that has been transformed later on into the primates who grew up to be human beings. So Lyran beings, they can assume any kind of the abilities, but they are very confused by it because you don't know if you're feeling the things or if you're knowing the things. So, and that goes to the hybrid beings as well. It is good to focus on the one that you feel is the most dominant at the time and to work with. Centaurus. Centaurian beings are phenomenal animal communicators. So if you feel like you can talk to the animals or they talk to you, the chances are that you spend some time in the Centaurus. Also, if you feel connected to the Hathors, is the Centaurians. So it will be the connection between the heart and between the throat chakra, the sound. The communication is the sound whenever you do it quietly or you do it out vocally and loud. I call it that, each star nation has an energy power center. That would be like the one center that is the most strongest, that is connected to your chakras. So let's say the Centaurus will be between the third, fourth, the fifth chakra, where the Syrians would be the sixth chakra. So it will be easy for them to see with their third eye and channel, do the remote viewing. Pleiadians, the heart chakra, the connection to your soul, to the love, receiving, giving, touch of the soul. That is the beautiful ability. Here we can compare this touch of the soul to the Jesus Christ. When the Jesus Christ gave you the healing, he would look into your eyes. And we know that the eyes are the doorway to the soul. And so if I can look into your eyes, I can touch your soul right there with the energy by the looking. So that is the Pleiadian ability. Versus, let's say, the Andromedian would be sitting between the second and third chakra, the feeling, and that clairsentience kind of the energy. So it varies.
And even if we have the connection to our starseed family, our true DNA, we can also have many of these other elements within us.
Yes. So we are capable to literally have any kind of the abilities. So I look in each chakra because clients taught me to work with 7 chakras, and I know there are many different chakras within the body. But it says if you understand them, you understand all your abilities and everything. Every single one of us, when we are connected to our abilities, we actually can have all abilities. We can utilize any ability that we would like, from the feeling to knowing, to be open with our heart, and hearing the things and the channeling. Because it doesn't matter if we came here as these divine beings who are old soul and helping the humanity to evolve, or we are here on the journey from the animal life to the primates and, evolving from the beginning and upward into those planetary lives. We all are capable to have any abilities. It is just built inside of us. What is the easiest way as a star being to do is to pick which one is the strongest to you. So if you came from the Andromeda and that clairsentience would be your dominant ability, that's where you need to start. You need to start to train yourself in the feeling and what does it mean, and eventually that will reconnect your way of the seeing. Versus Syrians, for example, even the Lyrans usually starts in the mind. Orion beings starts within the mind. So they will start exploring this. What is it that I'm receiving? What is it that I'm knowing? What are this information? And you have to bring it down and start not rely only on the knowing, but bring it down into the body and rely on the landed language of the feeling as well. Now, here I point out something interesting. The ability to see the extraordinary sense of the sight actually resides within the stomach. It's not in the 6th chakra. So if I want to activate that ability, I have to learn how to go into my stomach and again, understand my feelings before I can see anything.
Is that where the expression, some people are said to eat with their eyes? Is that where that expression came from, eating with your eyes?
It's so funny. I never heard that.
Yeah. My guest is Eva Marquez. Her new book, Activate Your Cosmic DNA. We'll be back with more of Eva after these words on the OMTimes Radio Network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, Help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, Eva Marquez, her book, Activate Your Cosmic DNA, Discover Your Starseed Family. Eva, how may we communicate with our starseed families and receive messages and wisdom from them?
So the communication starts with learning to meditate, literally learning to still our busy mind. Now, when we say, okay, I need to meditate, that means like sitting in the quiet time for the long time. That doesn't necessarily need to be, because a lot of people have a hard time with that. But we do need to find that way. We can build up the meditation in our busy life, but learn to quiet the mind. If you can do it in your meditation, just focus on your breath or on the Om sound, holding the one thing in your mind, that is perfect. If you cannot do it, go out into the nature, do a walking meditation when you can focus on your breath and maybe only on the trees that you are seeing, or holding your hands on the tree and just to focus on the breath and holding the trees, or even washing the dishes is the form of the meditation, because your whole family goes away. Nobody wants to wash the dishes, at least if you are in my family. And the feeling of the water can help you to still the mind. So that's the first thing, still your mind. Then open your heart. Start asking the questions. What is it you want to know? Where did I come from, for example? What is my soul family? Where did I come from? So you can say that question, and then you disconnect yourself from it. And you practice the stilling your mind so you can perceive your answers. Now, not everybody just perceive it as like, there's the voice and it told me this and that. Plus, the voice is not really audible. The voice is usually very telepathic when you go like, oh, what was that? But the best communication that I found with our soul family is through the symbols. So when you ask the question, start paying attention to a symbolism that you see through the day. So you may ask about, again, where I came from, and suddenly you see this picture of the Pleiades. Somebody sent you something and there's this star cluster. That's your answer. It comes in the symbolism. Remember, the symbols are the part of the language of light. No, I said watching and paying attention to the symbols and the signs is the best way of the beginning of the communication.
May we also travel with them astrally?
Yes. That is, I think, easy more than ever before. Focus, again, to be connected with your soul family. I always tell people, test the energy. Testing the energy means the asking 3 times. When you feel that energy, or you invited your soul family in your life, and you feel that present, ask them, are you coming from love and light? And you either feel or hear 3 times yes. And you need to ask these questions 3 times in a row. I would say it's the muscle testing or the body pendulum, using the body pendulum. It's the best way to do this. And then just use your imagination here. Create a little triggers, like imagine who says, okay, I want to go to the Alcyon. So imagine that here you are, there's your guide, you're going to walk into the elevator, you're going to push the button, and when that elevator stops, it opens the door and you walk in the beautiful garden of the Alcyon. And he says, okay, is it the imagination or is it the real stuff? Well, we do need to trick ourselves a little bit, to give ourselves this trigger, little jump start to get us where we want to go. But then, if your elevator open and you feel like you really walk in that garden, you will have the emotional response. That means that your DNA within you, it's responding to the memory where you have been before. And that's how you will know that your experience is authentic. That's what you create your triggers, and suddenly you have this authentic experience. And when you suddenly connect and you have these tears in your eyes and you have that feeling and your heart may be speeding up a little bit faster, that you know that you are actually doing it, that you are traveling with them, that you are visiting these places. So That's our time travel in our soul mind consciousness. And again, it's much more easier than we think.
Science, and quantum physics in particular, is now identifying the ability of energy and the projection of our thoughts to manifest and connect at vast distances and perhaps interdimensionally. Is this the key to understanding the Starseed experience?
Yes. I think that our experience eventually will be logically explained. And it will not be as, crazy as it sounds right now. There eventually, will be all the combination of all of it that will have a logical explanation. And I think that's what our soul family is guiding us. We may give enough people to think about, we share our experience, and then the quantum physicists will actually explain it, why it is working like that, what is the logic behind it. So we are in a way let's call it a two group of people, one who bringing the knowledge of this experience, and another one who is extremely logical and try to define it, how to do it according to the mathematical equation, which again is the language of light, that we can do it not only spontaneously, but on, perfectly design way that we understand that is the future.
Absolutely. One of my personal experiences, especially over the last few years, has been meeting people for the first time in this Earth lifetime and recognizing them as soul family, as star family. Is this also happening with others? And if so, what higher purpose or collective mission are we embarking upon?
I think it's happening to many of us now. And you meet somebody, you look into their eyes and go like, oh my God, I remember you. And they may not remember you, may do. I think it helps us to understand that we are not here alone. We were not abandoned here or kicked off the spaceship or maybe, had a little accident that we stood here. We came here on a reason, and so we start recognizing each other and we sharing our story, and we find a similarity in our story, and we realize that we came from the same place. And I think that help us to also realize that there's a reason why we are here. First of all, it helps us to heal our trauma faster. Second of all, our soul family share unconditional love. If you meet somebody from your soul family, here's your luckiest day on the earth, because that person will share this unconditional love. And I mean non-romantic unconditional love, of course, there's a whole another level about it. But this one is that somebody sees you for who you are. They will not judge you, and they will accept you for who you are, so you can accept yourself. That is a big point of the healing. And I think the importance or the mission that we have is assist to humanity to evolve from three-dimensional survival being into fifth-dimensional evolving multi-dimensional being. So we do need to recognize each other, because suddenly we realize, okay, I'm not here alone. Because otherwise we are going to just get lost, and this world's going to get the best out of us, because Earth is a very tough place to be at, and it's really easy to get lost in that. So with that, we encourage one another on this journey. We follow up into each other's footsteps. We're looking to all of that, and suddenly we recognize, and it says, okay, I can carry it furthermore. I can do this.
Absolutely. What message do our Starseed families have for us at this time of great challenge on 3D Earth?
Don't forget love. Love is the most powerful and important energy in this universe. Love is the opposite of fear. We are living in the three-dimensional bodies that are programmed and infused by the fears. And we are trying to jumpstart our evolution into a fifth-dimensional body that is vibrating with love for one another. with love that we will stop looking beyond our differences, where we came from, where we were born, how do we look like, what kind of the language we speak, what kind of the deity or the God we worship. Love unites us together. If today, let's have a fun with it, the males and the females equally on the earth fall in love, and here I mean that romantic love, we will stop the fights right away in the moment of now. We will stop separating ourselves, and we find that collective oneness, because with that union of the two, we unite others and others and others together. We will stop judging each other and killing each other and starving each other and creating the horror for each other. So they want us to remember love. Absolutely. And through love for ourselves and the others and our neighbors, we start learning and we start sharing and we start teaching, and then we can become the multidimensional beings, because we will be ready.
The Starseed Wisdom of Eva Marquez, her new book, Activate Your Cosmic DNA. Eva, one more time, please tell our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about you.
Oh, thank you. You can find everything about me, about my services and the book at my website, evamarquez.org. My books will be at all major retailers and, of course, on the Amazon. Thank you.
Eva, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this very, very important message.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And thank you for what you are doing, Victor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor, the Voice Fuhrman. Have a wonderful week.